subsistence.
We get grizzly teeth from the crows. We do a lot of trading with the Utes that come up from the south. That brings us to the areas of the Platte. And hunting the buffalo brought us to this area. Buffalo North, Buffalo South. And it made us move a lot. Wherever it went, that is where our people went.
I, of course, expected to find beaver, which with us hunters is a primary object, but I was also led on by the love of novelty, common to all, which is much increased by pursuit of its gratification. It was hunting and trapping that brought the earliest pioneers to the Western Territories. Soon more would follow, looking for souls to convert, and a safe passage to the Pacific.
This is a good cause, worth living for. Wherever we go, we find opportunities of doing good. If we had packed one or two animals with Bibles and Testaments, we should have had an abundant opportunity of disposing of them to the trappers and traders of the mountains.
In 1843, a trickle of immigrants began to follow these paths, and as they crossed into what is now Wyoming, miles and miles of sameness greeted them. This monotony was true for their journey as well. Moments of joy and excitement would provide a welcome relief from the boredom and hardships they constantly endured.
Day after day, week after week, we went through the same weary routine of breaking camp at daybreak, yoking the oxen, cooking our meager rations over a fire of sage bushes.
It was 15 miles to grass and water.
We then began to descend as we passed down the canyon.
The same thing over and over again.
The wind changed 16 times. Blowing hard. Fourth week we had been on the road.
It was after dark before we got to the camping place where Uncle Sam had a campfire built.
Many musicians belonging to the different encampments surrounding us. After supper, all commenced to practice the sweet tunes that were to enliven us while sitting around the campfire in a far-off place.
A wedding in camp this night, and a very tall spree. We put the married couple to bed in a wagon, and then hauled the wagon over the prairie through the brush. We called this rocking them to sleep.
I, Patty Session, delivered Silvira, wife of Samuel Turnbow, of a daughter named Margaret Ann, born June 25, 9 o'clock p.m.
I carried a little motherless baby 500 miles, and when we camped, I would go from camp to camp in search of some good, kind, motherly woman to let it nurse, and no one ever refused.
There are very black clouds in the west, and thunder and lightning in their midst. The storm burst upon me in the most terrific roar. The hail fell in perfect showers, pelting me unmercifully.
8 oxen killed by lightning.
Teams fell by the wayside. Provisions gave out. There was much suffering. Fathers and mothers died, left their little children to the mercy of strangers.
Counted as many as 500 graves along the North Platte.
Tomorrow we would lay her away, deep in the earth where wolves could not get her. robed in snowy white, the lovely wild flowers of the prairie that she loved so well, nestling around her. I wondered if her spirit still hovered near, and see our grief, and know our loneliness.
Left Camp 5. Reached the Platte at noon. Prepared to cross the stream. 10 feet to 15 feet deep and rapid. 6 or 8 men drowned and much cattle. Seems a little like a battlefield.
A great many immigrants are gathered, preparatory to crossing. The water is too deep to ford, and the ferry charges are very high.
Crossing the river yesterday, we were so unfortunate as to have 2 men drown.
Here, we had a great deal of trouble.
Sweeping our catalytic wagons to pieces, unloading, and replacing our tracks. A number of accidents happened here lately, and 4 children were drowned through the carelessness.
As the pioneers converged across the Platte River, for the last time they'd be leaving behind the familiar river and facing miles of barren and inhospitable travel, without water, and assaulted by relentless winds. For many immigrants, the arrival at Independence Rock was reason for celebration. They knew that by arriving there prior to Independence Day, they would most likely miss the early snows of winter on the mountain passes to the west.
Reached Rock Independence, an immense isolated granite rock. Customary for every traveler to enroll his name on this huge tablet.
James Clem,
Lorenzo Stanley Wilson,
Lansford W. Hastings,
Elizabeth Keegan,
Israel Moore.
Narcissa
Drove 5 miles to Independence Rock. Camped 1 hour. A funeral informed me before I arrived, and after I left, a wedding took place on the rock. A grand formation to get united on.
Took a sketch of Independence Rock. Turned a somersault on the highest place.
The alarm of attack was given. The guard fired his gun and called him for help. It was discovered that he had mistaken a mule for an Indian and had fired at it, but fortunately had missed his mark. Now there was a good deal of laughing done at his expense.
I have traveled about 4.5 months, and probably 2,000 miles, most of the way in what was supposed to be hostile Indian country. But I've not seen a single hostile Indian. All I have met are extremely friendly.
What once was a trickle of immigrants had soon become a stream. Immigrants made their way to set up farms in Oregon Territory. Mormons joined the trail as far as the Great Salt Lake. Then came the flood as tens of thousands rushed to California in pursuit of gold. The trail was transformed from a lonely path to an overcrowded highway.
Saw a colored man going to the land of gold, prompted by the hope of redeeming a wife and 7 children.
The gold excitement spread like wildfire.
Saw an Irish couple and their daughter on the way for gold.
The devil seems to take full possession of 3/4 of all that
600 wagons passed today.
While one man returning says he can't go all the way. Loves his wife more than gold.
For miles, an animated mass of beings broke upon our view. Long trains of wagons with their white covers were moving slowly along.
Both sides of the road for miles were lined with dead animals and abandoned wagons. Around them were strewn yokes, chains, harnesses, guns, tools, bedding, clothing, cooking utensils, and many other articles.
You ask, do you hear the smell? If you don't believe it, try it.
Since the white man has made a road across our land, and killed our game. We are hungry, and there is nothing for us to eat. Our women and children cry for food, and we have no food to give them.
The often unbroken chain of walkers and wagons continued west to South Pass, a nearly imperceptible hill that straddles the Continental Divide. West of here, the pioneers would have a parting of the ways and head off in differing directions on differing trails to their final destination and fortune.
After getting fairly on the top level of the pass, we halted to gaze for the last time on the eastern hills and valleys of the Atlantic slope. I strained my eyes, looking abstractedly towards the eastern horizon for the familiar faces of my old acquaintances. But I was soon brought to a sense of my situation by 3 lusty cheers, given as a sort of adieu to our friends before descending into the valley of the Pacific.
And here we are in Oregon, making our
Like any other new country.
We reached Sacramento City at noon today. I went in,
Turned round the hill to the right and came in full view of the salt
We
lake.
are at last at the end of our journey.
I could not help shouting, hurrah, hurrah, hurrah! There's my home at last.
Encouraged by reports from the new territories, more and more immigrants headed west. Now the 2 widely separated settlements of the United States needed to communicate and trade. The same routes took on a new life.
Have determined to establish a Pony Express to Sacramento, California, commencing 3rd of April. Time, 10 days.
Here he comes! Every neck is stretched further, and every eye strained wider. Away across the endless dead level of the prairie, a black speck appears against the sky.
Wells Fargo went anywhere. Did almost anything for anybody.
The western trails had become roads of commerce. Soon the sounds of hooves and footsteps plodding through the sandy soils would be replaced with new sounds. Sounds that meant the end of the trails.
We may look forward with confidence to the day when the Pacific coast will be bound to the Atlantic coast by iron bands.
The 6-month journey was reduced to less than a week. The prairie schooner has passed away and is replaced by the railway coach with all its modern comforts.
More than 400,000 men, women, and children emigrated over these trails, most of them walking the entire distance. They passed not more than a few hundred yards from where you're seated as they converged across the North Platte River. And while the deep ruts carved by heavy wagon wheels have been filled by Wyoming's relentless winds, there is the enduring evidence of this immense migration and of the indomitable spirit of the people on the move.
We all felt that now our journey was ended. The cattle had been unyoked for the last time. The wagons had been rolled to the last bivouac. The embers of the last campfire had died out. The last word of gossip had been spoken. And now we were entering a new field with new present experience and with a new expectancy